Stop what you are doing right now. Drop the phone, lean in, and listen close, because the landscape of the music industry just shifted on its axis. Last night, the king of petty, the master of the pivot, the one and only Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, did the unthinkable. He didn't just go live, he went nuclear. For years, rumors have been swirling in the shadows of Hollywood. Secret parties, pay-to-play schemes, and alliances that would make your head spin. But while everyone else was whispering, 50 was taking notes. And last night, he decided to read them out loud to the entire world. Reports are flooding in that this wasn't just a casual chat with fans. This was a 3 a.m. scorched earth campaign. Fans who caught the stream before it was mysteriously flagged and removed are describing a 50 Cent we've never seen. Calm, calculated, and holding a stack of folders that he claimed contained the receipts that would end careers. The air was thick with tension. You could see the notifications blowing up in real time as A-list celebrities, people we thought were his friends, started panicking in the comments, begging him to shut it down. But 50 just laughed that trademark laugh and said, "The party's over, tucked in shirts and all." What did he say about the secret mogul meetings? Who was he referring to when he mentioned the unsigned contracts of silence? Tonight, we are breaking down every shocking claim, every jaw-dropping accusation, and the ripples of fear currently tearing through the hills of Calabasas. This isn't just gossip, this is a cultural earthquake. Grab your popcorn, because the industry isn't just shocked, it's terrified. Gemini said the air in the digital world changed the second that notification popped up on millions of screens simultaneously across the globe. It was not just another live stream from a celebrity board in their mansion. It was a calculated strike from a man who has made an entire second career out of being the industry's most feared chess player. Curtis Jackson, known to the world as 50 Cent, sat in a high-backed leather chair that looked more like a throne than office furniture. The lighting was dim, casting long shadows across his face, but his eyes were sharp and focused. He did not start with a greeting or a joke. He simply held up a thick manila folder labeled with the initials of one of the biggest music conglomerates in history. He began by explaining that for 20 years he has sat in boardrooms where people thought he was just the talent, but he was actually the observer. He spoke about the silent agreements that happen behind closed doors where the fate of young artists is decided before they even sign a contract. His voice was a low rumble, steady and devoid of the usual teasing tone he uses on social media, which made the gravity of his words feel even heavier. He started detailing a specific night at a high-end hotel in London where 3 major label heads met to discuss how they would manipulate the charts for the upcoming summer season. According to the reports coming out about this live session, he named specific percentages and kickback schemes that would make a forensic accountant dizzy. He talked about how certain artists are chosen not for their talent, but for their willingness to sign over their publishing and their souls to a system that views them as nothing more than disposable batteries. As the viewer count climbed into the hundreds of thousands, the tension became unbearable. People were typing names in the comments, asking if their favorite rappers were part of the scheme, and 50 Cent just nodded slowly, saying that the names everyone loves are often the ones with the most to hide. He mentioned a specific situation involving a legendary hip-hop duo that allegedly fell apart not because of creative differences, but because a certain executive planted evidence of theft to keep them from starting their own independent label. The detail he provided was surgical, describing the exact date of a meeting and the color of the folders handed across the table. It felt less like a gossip session and more like a deposition in the court of public opinion. He moved on to the topic of industry parties, those legendary gatherings that every aspiring star dreams of attending. He described them not as celebrations of success, but as recruitment grounds for a darker side of the business. He spoke about the hidden cameras and the non-disclosure agreements that are shoved in people's faces before they even get a drink. He claimed to have a list of every person who signed those papers and exactly what they were trying to cover up. The atmosphere of the stream was suffocating because he was not just shouting accusations. He was narrating a history of corruption that he claimed to have been a part of until he decided he had enough. He looked directly into the camera and said that the industry thrives on the fear of being blacklisted, but you cannot blacklist a man who owns the list. He then turned his attention to a specific mogul whose reputation has been golden for decades, calling him a hollow shell who survives on the labor of ghostwriters and shadow producers who never see a dime of their royalties. He described a phone call he received just minutes before going live, an attempt by a powerful lawyer to offer him a massive sum of money just to keep the camera off. He laughed at the memory, saying that some things are worth more than a check, especially the look on their faces when the truth finally comes out. He began flipping through the folder, stopping at a page that supposedly contained the travel logs of a private jet used by several A-list celebrities to visit a private island that has been the subject of intense scrutiny lately. He did not say the name of the island, but the implication was clear enough to send a shockwave through the chat. The comments were moving so fast they were a blur of colors and emojis, but 50 Cent remained the calm center of the storm. He started talking about the way the industry handles scandals, explaining the concept of a sacrificial lamb where a mid-level executive or a struggling artist is blamed for the sins of the elite. He claimed to have the original documents that prove who was actually responsible for a massive embezzlement scandal that rocked the industry 5 years ago. He spoke about the personal stakes involved, mentioning how he saw friends lose their minds and their lives trying to fit into a mold that was designed to break them. He shared a story about a young singer who was told her career would be over if she didn't cooperate with a specific producer's demands, and how he had to step in behind the scenes to make sure she was protected. This was not just about money or fame. It was about the human cost of the glitz and glamour. He touched on the concept of industry plants, explaining how the major labels manufacture authenticity by hiring marketing firms to create fake viral moments and scripted beefs to keep the public distracted from the lack of actual substance in the music. He said that the beefs people see on television are often just distractions to cover up a merger or a lawsuit that the labels don't want the public to notice. As he spoke, he started pulling out photographs from the folder, holding them just out of clear view so you could see silhouettes, but not features, teasing the audience with the promise of total exposure. He talked about the secret hierarchies where even the biggest stars have to answer to people the public has never heard of. He described a secret society of sorts that dictates the cultural trends of the entire world from a small office in Midtown Manhattan. He was dismantling the illusion of the self-made star, piece by piece, and replacing it with a narrative of systemic control. The intensity of his gaze never wavered as he moved from one topic to the next, building a web of connections that seemed to link every major scandal of the last decade to a single source of power. He was breathing life into every conspiracy theory the internet has ever produced, but giving it the weight of his personal experience and his undeniable status in the game. He mentioned the way the media is paid to look the other way, citing specific journalists and outlets that allegedly receive monthly retainers to write puff pieces for certain artists while burying negative stories about their handlers. He was burning every bridge he ever walked across, and he seemed to be enjoying the warmth of the fire. He paused for a moment to take a sip from his glass, the ice clinking against the side in the absolute silence of his room, before leaning back and starting to talk about the specific financial crimes that he says are the backbone of the entire music business. He explained how money is moved through shell companies in the Caribbean to avoid taxes and to pay for things that can never appear on a legitimate balance sheet. He was painting a picture of an industry that is more like a criminal enterprise than a creative pursuit, and the world was watching in collective disbelief as the man who once ran the streets of Southside Queens prepared to run the entire industry into the ground.